Our giant mission is to lead the forgotten, to follow Jesus into forever. And there are a lot of forgotten that need to learn how to follow Jesus, and there's only one place to go when you follow Jesus. That's into forever. We've been talking all year about beating with the heartbeat of Jesus. How it is that as a congregation, how it is as a church, our heart should beat in sync with Jesus' heart. When people hurt, Jesus hurts. And if your heart is in sync with Jesus, when people hurt, you hurt. And so we've been studying this series about how to have compassion for people in critical moments. My sermon this morning is called Meek, Don't Mistake It. Meek, don't mistake it. Meek, not weak. Peacemaking is not for the spineless, but it is about compassion in critical moments. Right now, as I stand on the stage before you, this world is on the verge of literal another world war. We are one person's bad mistake away from it in a highly escalated situation. And this is the deal. The deal is if you don't deal with highly escalated situations, you lose control. Peacemaking is about compassion. And it's about compassion in absolutely critical moments. Peacemaking. It's hard. Follow me. I'm just going to be honest with you. I'm going to do my thing. I'm just going to be transparent. Peacemaking is hard. How do you have compassion when all they do is bring you conflict? How do you show love when all they do is show disdain? How do you offer forgiveness when all they do is want to remember? Peacemaking is messy business. Peacemaking is not for weak people. Sometimes we think about peacemaking and we think, oh, that's for, let's get the touchy-feely people up here to deal with this. No, peacemaking is about strength because Jesus was strong, amen? Jesus said, blessed are the peacemakers, for they will be called. The answer's on the screen if you don't know it. They will be called what? They'll be called children of God? Do we have anybody here this morning who will claim to be a peacemaker? Do we have anybody here this morning who will claim to be a child of God? Oh, guess what? Welcome to the graduate level. Peacemaking. And by the way, it's peacemaking, not peacekeeping. And it's definitely not peace-mongering. Do you know what peace-mongering is? Peace-mongering is letting things escalate till somebody nukes the other side. Because peacemaking is messy. We don't want to do it. I don't want to do it. There are some people you just got to deal with, but I don't want to do it. Now, there are other people who just, they want to do it. They're like, I'm waiting for the next conflict so I can practice my peace, but that might not be peacemaking. like feeling up. I don't like addressing people's bad behavior. I don't like confronting people on the way that they're really talking when they shouldn't be talking about others. You know why I don't like it? Because it costs me something every time I do it. I know I will be gaining conflict for being a peacemaker. I know this. I will gain people who don't like me, but I will be faithful to Jesus. Now we want to talk about this because peacemaking is not peacemongering. Peacemaking is not peacekeeping. Like, I don't want to deal with someone because if I deal with them, then there's going to be a fallout. So I'm just going to let them keep. I read a great book. It's called Antagonist in the Church. I recommend everybody read it. Like, the theory of the book is, how do you deal with an antagonist in your church? How do you deal with someone in the church who just wants to cause trouble? Who just wants to create conflict in the church? And the author of the book, Antagonist in the Church, put it this clearly. He said, what you gotta do if you have a wolf, and he called the person a wolf. If you have a wolf in your congregation, what you have to do is it's not hard work, it's just really math. Pick a number. How many sheep are you going to let the wolf deal with before you deal with the wolf? And then don't let the wolf eat any more little lambs than the number you picked. But make sure you're dealing with a wolf. Right? Peacemaking is, it's messy. It's messy because we've not been told how to do it. There's not been enough sermons. You know why there's not been enough sermons? Can I just be honest with you? Because if I get up here and talked about peacemaking, not peacemongering, I'm going to have to deal with some of you. And some of the rest of you are going to go, when are you going to go deal with them? You preached about it? Peacemaking is not passive. It's not silent. Meekness is power under control. Strength surrendered to the heartbeat of Jesus. Peacemaking takes two sides of Jesus. Jesus is called in the book of Revelation the Lion of Judah. But 27 times in the book of Revelation, he's called the Lamb of God. Do you want to know why the ratio is 1 to 27? That's how much power he yields. He only roars once. Peacemaking is power under control. Peacemaking is having the strength of a lion in the innocence and intent of a sacrificial lamb. You get your strength by being willing to be sacrificed. And that's why we don't like preaching about peacemaking. That's why. But compassion in critical moments, they're going to bring the conflict. Who are they? Just humans. They're going to bring the conflict. It's going to happen. It is what happens in a fallen world. Are you going to be the lion? Or are you going to be the lamb? And how are you going to know? I got 3 quick stories for you today from the Bible. I can't go into all the stories, but 3 quick stories. And all 3 quick stories show you the balance between being the lion and being the lamb. And so let's just start off with the king of all stories, the king of all people, the king of all, well, not the king of all kings, but the one who set up the king of all kings, David. Now, David was on the run from another king. So sometimes conflict comes to you because other people are in conflict. Did you catch that? Did you hear that? David's on the run from King Saul. He's running from King Saul. But why he is running from King Saul, he's going to go and make conflict for Nabal. You see, sometimes people are going to bring conflict to you because they're already in conflict. So don't assume when someone's being a bad actor or what appears to be a bad actor to you that they are out to get you. Sometimes it's a cry for help. And David is out there with his men trying to survive. And he's out there, he's taking care of Nabal's sheep. He's caring for them. He knows that there's no one out there to care for them. He's out there caring for them. And he's got his whole army out there caring for them because they're on the run. They got nothing to do. And they're out there hiding. And they see this man's sheep going astray. And they start to care for them. But then it's like time for the feast. He's got no food for his soldiers. So he goes to Nabal and he says, hey, I've been caring for your sheep. Can I have some for my starving workers? And Nabal says, why should I take bread and water and meat that I have slaughtered for my shears and give it to David's men coming from who knows where? Now listen, that's what's going on in this world right now. There are people under conflict, running in their conflict, trying to do the right thing. David, good guy or bad guy in the Bible? Good guy in the Bible. And even while he's running from his life, he's trying to help somebody else. He simply says, can my men have some bread and water while we're out here caring for your sheep? And we don't know who you are. You're just some scoundrel. You just show up on our property. What are you, a squatter? And David's like, I've been out here almost a year caring for this guy's sheep. David looks at his man, he says, get your sword, let's go. Sometime the people who are facing you off are doing the best they can. We don't like that. We don't want to hear that. People are on the other side from us. They're the bad people, right? I mean, clearly, if they're against someone as great as me, they must be terrible. I mean, you saw the way they talked to me in the hall. You saw the way they treated me in the parking lot. You saw what happened in that meeting. They are bad people. No. Who is bad and who is good is not your decision. Your decision is to decide if you're going to be meek or weak. David is going for Nabal and he's going to take him out, but Abigail acted quickly. How did she act? What do you do in conflict? You act quickly. Because if you let it escalate, someone's going to press that nuke button. Abigail acted quickly. She took 200 loaves of bread. He only asked for a few loaves and a little water. She's like, let me get 200 of them. And I'm going to bring wine, not water. And I'm going to dress 5 sheep and 5 seahs of roasted grain and 100 cakes of raisins, which are very expensive in the Middle East, and 200 cakes of pressed figs, and I'm going to load them on a donkey, and I'm going to take them to David. Now, this Abigail is Nabal's wife. And here's what she says when she gets to David. No, watch this. I know, but watch what she says. Please pay no attention, my lord, to that wicked man Nabal. You know, some of you women know when your men are doing dumb things, don't you? Some of you have to clean up after them, don't you? He's just like his name means. What's his name mean? Fool. Don't be the fool in the conflict. Don't be the fool in the conflict. Who escalated? Nabal. What did David do? Care for his sheep. What did David ask? Just for a little bread and water for my men who are caring for his sheep. What did Nabal say? You're squatters. You're no good. You're not the right kind of people for here. What did David do? Let's get our swords and take him out. What did Nabal do? He was a fool. In the conflict. Men, don't make your wife have to tell the truth about you. Here's the thing about it. David forgave him. David forgave him, and David went back home, and 10 days later, how many days? 10 days, how many days? 10 days later, just because judgment doesn't come right away. 10 days later, God proved Abigail right, and she was a widow. When we don't deal with conflict, sometimes God's forced to. And guess what? David had a new wife. Ladies, I'm not recommending anything. I'm just saying. I'm just saying the ways of God are wise. Don't hold on to a fool too hard. The ways of God are wise. And then there's a story about Paul. I don't even want to talk about the story. This is a hard story to talk about Paul, but I'm going through these stories fast because I just want you to see over and over the way conflict is dealt with in the Bible. Paul is writing a letter, and he's writing a letter to a guy named Philemon. And he's writing a letter to this guy because Philemon is a slave keeper. And in the Roman Empire, up to 1/3 of all the citizens, I'm talking citizens, were slaves. Now, it wasn't necessarily like America. Thank goodness we just celebrated what holiday? Juneteenth. It was awesome to have a Thursday off, wasn't it? Amen? I bet it was also awesome for those slaves to finally be free. Paul is on the side of Christianity. It wasn't racial slavery like it was in America, and it was in America. It was Roman enslaving Roman over debt, but we have a lot of debt slavery in America. People whose whole paycheck just goes to that. And Ominous ran away. And he ran to Paul. And he's basically saying to Paul, I want you to follow me here. How can one Christian think they can own another Christian? How can one human think they can own another human? How long did it take America to handle that question? And then once they handled that question, how long did it take them to pass the Civil Rights Act? See, Paul's tackling those questions. So Paul starts his letter off to Philemon, and I didn't catch it until I was really deeply studying this week. I didn't catch the way he starts this letter off to Philemon. I didn't catch what he's saying. But it's right there in the very first sentence. Normally every epistle of Paul starts off, I, Paul, apostle of Christ, because he's like so thrilled and so happy to be able to say he's an apostle of Christ. But Philemon doesn't start that way. Philemon starts this way. I, Paul, a prisoner. I, Paul, what? A prisoner. Paul often refers to himself as a doulos in Greek, a slave. Our translations are polite, and we translate it as bondservant. When you see bondservant in the New Testament, it's slave. Paul brags about being a slave to Jesus all the time. Paul says, Paul, a prisoner of Jesus Christ, and Timothy, our brother, to Philemon, our dear friend and fellow worker. What is he saying? Only God can own people. Don't think you own anyone. Only God is just to own us. And even then, when we ran away, he bought us again. And what did God do when we ran away and he bought us again? He set us free. There should be no question on how Christians should face injustice. There should be no question on what Christians should do when they see social injustice. There should be no question. It's not the time to be the lamb, it's time to be the lion. But Paul has an interesting approach here. I think it reminds me of Martin Luther King a little bit, where he mixes the urgency of the solution must be now with an appeal to the decency of a Christian. Paul writes to Philemon, he says, though I could order you, I am the apostle. I could order you to do what you ought to do. In other words, you know what you're supposed to be doing here. And I could order you, but I prefer to appeal to you on the basis of love. You know what he's actually saying here? I'm not done. I'm just getting a little bit closer here. He's actually saying, I challenge your Christianity. I challenge your Christianity. Because if you really love God, you cannot own another. You cannot oppress another. You cannot abuse another. You cannot pull down another. See, that's not weakness. That's meekness. That's power under constraint. Paul could say, I am the apostle, and you're going to do what I say. But Paul says, I am the apostle. Where is your love? I thought you were all about beating with the heartbeat of Jesus. Paul continues to write, I am sending him who is in my very heart back to you. This guy is mine in my heart. And I'm going to send him back to you. But watch this. He ain't going back the way he came out. He ain't going back. I know it's not good grammar, but it's good theatrics. He ain't going back the way he came out. I'm sending you back, but not as your slave. As your brother. He is very dear to me, even dearer to me than to you. Both as a fellow man and as a brother in the Lord, the very heart back to you. And then Paul goes on to say, when I get there later on, if you think a brother is not more valuable than a worker, when I get there later on, if you found that you've been treated badly because you think you lost something, then put it on my tab. I will pay anything you think you're owed. In other words, love is always better than control. And then there's Moses. Now, I like Moses. I like to be a lot more like Moses. Moses is said in the New Testament to be the meekest of them all. All I see when I see Moses, I don't know, Pastor, who can relate to this, right? All I see when I see Moses is a whole bunch of people bringing him a whole bunch of foolishness. And saying, it's your problem, we followed you out of Egypt. Where are we going to get some quail? Where are we going to get some water? Where are we going to get some leeks? Where are we going to get some manna? And why does the manna not come on Friday and Saturday? Like, what is wrong with you, Paul? Oh, not Paul, Moses. What is wrong with you, Moses? And the reason I like Moses, I like Moses because he is in the cooker, man, all the time. He is under pressure, like all the time. But Moses is a man of love. And I'm going to tell you something. The love of a good woman can really help you when you're under pressure. Having someone by your side when you're under pressure. But how do you deal with it when someone attacks the person you love instead of you? You see. I expect to be attacked as a pastor. In fact, I get a little nervous when there isn't somebody mad at me. But what about when they go for somebody you love? And they go for somebody you love not because of who the person is you love. It's like they're looking for excuses. In Numbers 12, it says this. Miriam and Aaron, this is his brother and sister, began to talk against Moses. Why? Why? One of the least read verses in the Bible. Why? Silent in here. Moses was in a mixed racial marriage. That's what it says in Numbers. Miriam and Aaron began to talk against Moses because his Cushite wife his Ethiopian wife, his African wife. For he had married a Cushite, which is the strip break going down from Ethiopia in Egypt. And they began to say things like this. Our brother married a Cushite? Like, we're Israelites. Our brother married a Cushite? What is going on? I mean, maybe God doesn't speak through him. Doesn't God speak through all of us? Like, wasn't I called to be Moses' mouthpiece? Now, we've got to be careful here. In the first story, David brought the conflict, but he got it from Saul. He brought it to Nabal. And Abigail solved it, and God judged it. In the second conflict, Arminius ran away from Philemon. Paul called him out for not having a heart for Jesus and told him to grow up and be a real Christian. In the third conflict, Moses' older sister and brother are insulted that Moses married someone they do not approve of. And so they start attacking his leadership. But I'm going to tell you something. It's not Miriam and it's not Aaron who's going to bring the conflict this time. It's God. You be careful of what fight you pick if you want to start a conflict. You may not know whose strength you're going to be. See, they looked at Moses and said, what are you going to do? He's that little meek guy. What are you going to do? He always beating a stick on the rock for water to come out whenever people tell him to. He does whatever people tell him. Oh, they don't understand. The lion in a meek person isn't in them. It's in the lion. And it says, the anger of the Lord. Not the anger of Moses. The anger of the Lord. You done made the wrong person mad. The anger of the Lord burned against them, and he left them. You know what that means? You don't want to know what it means for God's glory to depart you because of your foolishness. Because you don't know what's going to happen to you once God's glory departs from you because of your foolishness. You'll think you're playing around with foolishness until God's glory leaves you. And when the cloud lifted from above the tent, Miriam's skin was leprous. And she was as white as snow with leprosy. I think there's a pun here if you're not picking up on it. Think a little bit faster. Don't mess with God. Well, he brings the conflict. You want your meek brother Moses to start praying. I'm going to tell you something. Moses is a better pastor than me. Me, I'm going to be over there in the corner laughing. I'm going to be over in the corner saying, see, God was with me. God got him. Moses starts praying. You know what God says? God says, you know what, Moses? I can forgive them. But let me tell you something. And I like this. I like this. If Miriam's dad walked up to her and spat in her face, this is what God said. God said this, not me. If Miriam's father walked up to her and spit in her face, she would stay unclean for 7 days. Let her keep her leprosy for 7 days. In other words, are you ready for it? God spit in the racist's face. Your might comes from the lion's power, not yours. It wouldn't be the first time this would happen. The same brother, Moses goes up the mountain to literally get the 10 Commandments to find out what God wants for his people and why he's gone. People start getting on Aaron, like, what are we going to do? What are we going to do? What are we going to do? And Aaron's like, oh, I don't know. Like, well, why don't you make a God for us? I don't know if Moses will ever come back. Okay, let's make a calf. The guy doesn't learn, right? And God's like, hey, check out what your brother's doing again, man. What's Moses do? Moses prays. And he says, God, I know your wrath. God, I know your strength. Remember your promise. And in every one of these stories, it took amazing strength to face the conflict. In every one of these stories, letting the conflict go unchecked is to allow wickedness amongst God's people. And in every one of these stories, not once did the person solving the conflict depend on their own power, their own strength, or their own might, even when they held positional authority to do so. You do not see Paul saying, because I'm the apostle, you are going to do what I tell you to do. You do not see Moses saying, I am the one who saw the burning bush. You're going to do what I tell you to do. They don't stand on their power. They stand on God's. And when you have to deal with conflict, don't be afraid. Walk into it. Walk into it. Walk into it, not like David did, picking up the sword, like Abigail did, picking up the mercy and a little bit of truth about the foolishness of her husband. Let Jesus be the lion. And you be the lamb. I didn't say just be a lamb and go in there and buy a lamb. No, how many wolves are you going to let the lamb eat? No, I didn't say that. Let Jesus be the lion. He's going to deal. Man, you saw what happened. When you go to praying and trusting Jesus, you saw what happened. You're like, I spit in her face and she ain't going to be clean for 7 days. Vengeance is his. Go knowing he's got your back. You hear me? Go knowing he's good. You do not be the peacemonger. Do not run away. And do not fight. Go knowing the Lion of Judah has your back. And be the lamb and let him fight all around you. For blessed are the peacemakers. Their daddy shows up because they are the children of God. Pastor, close this one up for me after they sing. Don't go away. We got some baptisms.